today? Looks like it. So my name is Natalie. I'm with National Geographic Animal Jam. If you guys haven't heard of us before, we're an online playground for kids where kids can get to know one another, mingle with their friends, learn about the sciences, and really just get to play online in a safe environment. Today, who we have with us, well, actually, first, let me thank Mom It Forward for pulling this together. Mom It Forward has helped facilitate and produce our first Hangout today on air. We've never done this before. And if you're not familiar with them either, Mom It Forward is a blogger network that pairs family-friendly brands like us with parents in social media like you. And so this is really a way for you to work on compensated campaigns. It's a win-win for everyone. They're also the organizers of Family Forward. It's 3 retreats happening this year for social media influencers. You can find out all about those on familyforward.com, and you can meet up with us, the Animal Jam team, at both the Orlando and the Zion event later this year. So just to introduce you guys to our bloggers who are going to be joining us today, we have Holly. She's the force behind Kids Activities blog. If you have not checked this out, you have to. It is so much fun. She wrote 101 kids activities that are the bestest and the funniest ever, seriously. And she wrote it with Rachel Miller, one of my faves, and it'll be in bookstores on June 10th. She's in Texas, I'm in Utah, and she's a mom of 3 boys. I've got 3 dogs. So we kind of have things in common there, little messy ones. Amy is also with us today. She's from Teach Mama, and we teach. She's a mom to 3 crazy cool kids, and she's married to an elementary school principal, so this is like the perfect place for her to be right now. Aside from that, she's also a writer, she's a runner, and she loves good food, and she's also a former high school English teacher, so watch out what you type in because she's going to keep you in check. She writes for Scholastic Parents, PBS Parents, and a bunch of other sites, but really she's most excited from what I hear that summer vacation is just around the corner. So welcome, ladies. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. This is going to be super fun.
Yeah, happy to be here.
So really the main reason that we're here today is to talk about gamification and really incorporating the sciences into online gameplay, or games in general, not necessarily just online. Really, how does that come into learning about the core sciences? What is it really? Does it really make a difference in what your kids are learning? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that. Amy, you want to kick it off?
Sure. So, gamification is really just kind of, learning through play in games online. And I think it's something that, is a new fancy term, but it's been going on for, since the beginning of time. Smart parents were engaging their kids in, fun learning activities, hands-on, cooking, bringing them into the kitchen, like, balance games, ball games, all kinds of things. And gamification is really just bringing it into the digital world. So I think it's awesome, and I think it's a fantastic way of engaging all types of learners.
Yeah, it's so true. It really is kind of touching on the various aspects in the way kids learn. Some are so tactile, some really work well within games. Holly, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm the mom of 3 boys with ages ranging from 8 to 13, so I have a house full of gamers, and kids are really impressive in their ability to grasp new technology without even thinking twice about it. And they've been raised in this digital age where it's just second nature to pick up my iPad and do something with it that I have no idea was even possible. And, it's just the way they are hardwired. And so I love, kind of this whole philosophy behind gamification where you can take those things that attract them to online and kind of technology and gaming that they love, and then, sneak in a little learning and make it, something that's more than just a fun event.
Yeah, I agree. That's a big thing for us at Animal Jam is we often refer to it as chocolate-covered broccoli versus zucchini bread. I
Nah.
could eat zucchini bread any day and think it's delicious, but chocolate covered broccoli, they know it's still broccoli underneath there. And so that was a big hurdle for us, is really determining how do you make a game that's fun for them, but is really kind of layering in those educational components so that they are learning, but without feeling like they're doing homework. So how do you guys already use gamification and online resources to help your kids learn?
I think just trying to provide the kids with folders on their iPad or thumbnails on the computer that are full of rich, worthwhile resources for the kids. I mean, there's a ton of junk out there. Let's be honest, and I think if parents kind of sort through it and find what is really worth their time, that kind of does a really awesome blend of learning and fun, that the kids don't even know that it's like, work, or work in their brain that way, then I think that's the best possible way. And really just kind of having a hands down, like, we're not going to play this game or this game or this game, because like a lot of what's on television, it's junk for their brain, is what I call it. And I think just being kind of forceful about that, purposeful with what we put in their hands.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's hard to find quality. That's always the hardest part.
Yeah, and one of the things that I kind of think about it as the same kind of philosophy I have about the pantry is, like, if you have just good choices and they don't have bad choices, like, they're always going to be eating something good. And especially when they're younger and you have more control over, like, what they understand and know what's available, is you can put things on the iPad or on your phone that are of good quality, or when they sit down to the computer, they know that these are the three things that are for them. And you give them choices within that sphere of what you find that was good and helpful, and things that you approve of. Obviously, when they get a little bit older and their friends let them in on all these other things, you have whole other issues. But starting out, like, kind of like, these are the choices we're making, and this is why. And and so that conversation can be part of technology from day one. And I find it's really, really helpful is that, like, we use technology a ton. I partially homeschool the kids, and so we're doing a lot of studying at home. And so many things are available online and through apps that they can study whatever we're studying through games or through practice things that are a lot more fun than just learning flashcards. And so when you embrace that as part of kind of everyday learning, then it's not a stretch at all to sit down and have fun while you're learning as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. Is that something that you do often with them, or is that something that they kind of do on their own?
It depends on the subject. Like, for instance, like spelling. There's a online site that we use that I put their spelling lists in, and then they can go in and do one of 50 games with those spelling words, and stuff like that. So that's some things we might do together. But what's so nice about homeschooling in this technology-laden situation is that a lot of times what I would have had to drill them manually now can be done through a computer, through fun, through a game. Whereas, the science components of Animal Jam is very much like that. Is like, if we're, learning about something, in that sphere of what is going on in there, is you can actually use those things alongside what you're learning, in traditional books.
Right, yeah, we see that a lot. We actually have a game called Temple of Trivia where the kids can go in and answer trivia questions about geography. It's part of National Geographic's GeoV. And we love seeing how quickly the kids just absorb all the different facts and retain them forever just so they can answer the questions fastest in the game.
Yeah.
It's an incredible thing to see.
I think that's the other thing is, like, I think well, at least my children, because they got my genetics, were very competitive. And so, I mean, having, kind of throwing that in as kind of part of the fun, in a, tongue-in-cheek kind of competition is, and, like on something like that, they would totally beat me, like hands down. So that's always fun too.
Yeah, anything that has to do with memory or like shoving more into their brain, they can totally beat us, Holly. I mean, there's no more room in here.
No,
I feel
I
like
just
I have
give
to
up.
lay it down.
Even the simple memory game, like when I think I was first beat at memory by a 6-year-old, and I'm like, man, that's not even
Right.
fair.
And you're like really trying hard. Yeah.
Oh, I'm not throwing this game at all.
I know.
So if you guys, I mean, clearly you're really involved in what your kids are doing online and really engaging them, especially when it comes to gamification and using it as a resource. How would you suggest to other parents to incorporate that, especially with summer coming up, where now it's really like, okay, I want my kids to have fun, but I don't want them to completely like fall off the wagon and forget about everything they've been learning, which then just makes the new school year so much harder. What are ways that you would encourage parents to try to utilize these tools?
That's a good question. I think, Natalie, so much of it is modeling. Just modeling the, constant questioning of the world around us and kind of figuring out together where you go for answers if you have questions. For example, we were just reading this book that we got from the library tonight. I was reading for my 7-year-old, and it was about the Tooth Fairy. It was a funny book. And at the back, it just said, it had a really funny write-up from the author and the illustrator. And it said, like, it had their websites there for both author and illustrator. And we were like, let's check it out. Let's learn a little bit more about these two people who are a really great team who made this awesome book and see what else they have going. So, just that kind of thing, like, we grabbed the laptop and we sat on the couch and just kind of showed her how to type in the URL, and we read through it together. That kind of like really in the moment learning, I think, is important. And if I said, all right, Cora, who's 7, go look these up on your own, it wouldn't have had the same impact as it did of me just sitting there, and then our other kids came over and they were like, oh my gosh, look at that, she wrote that, kind of built on each other. So I think a lot of modeling, especially when it comes to online resources and learning that way.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That's pretty cool. I've never heard of an author doing that.
Yeah, so many authors have awesome websites now. So.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that, because I really think that especially since these kids have grown up in a completely different time than we did, and they've been indoctrinated with all this technology from day one. I mean, it's just crazy what's been available to them, is that it can't be an isolated experience for them. Like, it needs to be a family experience. It needs to be, an adult-led experience to a certain extent within the child's interests, so that so that when they think, oh, I'm going to go to the computer, let's see if mom wants to play, or hey, and my kids are notorious for saying, let's Google it. That's like the answer to everything. Like, let's go Google it. So we do, and one of our big things that we love is the Google images, because then all of a sudden, like, if they want to look at pandas, then we can Google images, and then they have access to the printer, and I'll have 16 pages of panda pictures printed off before I know it. But then the pandas come out of the computer and they go to they're drawing pandas, and they're making a panda sanctuary upstairs. I mean, it doesn't, like, it's just another tool for learning, and it's not something scary and frightening and things that we have to lock down if the children understand how it has to be used, and how wonderful this is if we can embrace it in the proper way.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's really understanding that it's a resource and it's a tool and not just a toy. And, really understanding what the repercussions are when you're using it, but then also just the bounty of stuff that it can give you is really incredible. Like, one thing we created for Animal Jam was Animal Jam Academy. And it's a whole microsite outside of our game where you can download fun videos, activity sheets, arts and crafts. And for us, that was really a way to show the kids, like, okay, playing online is awesome. And you might not know that you're learning here, but you are. But what are you going to do when you go offline? How do we encourage them to continue that and to keep that interest in animals and conservation? That was a difficult thing for us to crack for a while, where it was just really, what do we do to encourage them to keep doing this, and how do we encourage them to interact with their families too? It's like a big one for us that's done really well are science experiments. The kids love the science experiments that we post, and we have some of our in-game scientists actually do videos themselves of them performing the experiment so the kids see how it's done. And it's been huge for us. And so for us, that's really great because we see that not only are they learning in the game, but those same core values they're learning online, they're able to then take offline and share with their family and friends, which is always a really exciting thing.
I agree. I think that's one of the coolest things about Animal Jam is the video experiments done with the several ones that the kids and I watched were, you know, an adult and a child, and I think just watching a child their age kind of practice and do it hands-on with materials that we totally have around the house was really cool and a very kind of like easy to understand, but not like too easy. They still were able to, you know, use scientific terms that they may not have been familiar with, but you know, they definitely could understand the explanation and see it happening. So that's awesome because that will carry on with their learning outside of that realm.
Yeah, it's a really fun thing to see. So I know this is the part where everybody seems to get the most excited. This, of course, is our giveaway question that's just also for the community to answer in the comments as well as for our bloggers. But the big question we have for everybody today are, what are your criteria for allowing your children to play online educational games? So don't forget to put that one in the comments. I'll give you guys a little bit to do that really quick.
Natalie, will you repeat it just one more time for those people who need to hear it a couple times?
Like us.
Like me, yeah. Like Holly and me.
What are your criteria for allowing your kids to play online educational games?
That's a hard one. You know, I think for me it comes down to, you know, well, first of all, you have to know that it's available. Like that's one of the, I think, the most challenging things for parents right now is to just even, you know what's out there because there's so much out there. And so that's why I love, like, you know, sitting down with, you know, like now and learning all this stuff about Animal Jam. But I think like that's like the stage one is that I know it's available and I know it's good, like, you know, from a trusted name like National Geographic. But the second part of that is the kids have to like it because, like, you know, it could be amazing, but if they don't like it, it's not going to go anywhere in my house. And that's what's so fun about what you're doing.
Yeah, I'd say definitely the safety factor is huge. You know, that it's not spammed out with ads everywhere and that it is a well-respected brand. It's huge. Really, and then a good mix of like awesome graphics, intuitive, but not too difficult. That's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah, it's definitely a core thing for us is making sure that it's accessible to kids of all ages. So it's really how do you cater to the 6-year-olds as well as the 12-year-olds and give them content that's applicable to all of them. So kind of going back to what you were saying about the experiments, like some of it's a little bit more advanced, but even the younger kids can do it with the help of an older sibling or parent.
Right. And they're not going to, like, blow up the house. You.
That is key to any science experiment.
I would say so, yes.
Well, and getting back to what Amy was talking about with safety, you know, like you can have like the greatest game that, you know, that has all sorts of fun stuff, but then the chat can just go awry so quickly that you're scared for your children. So that's one of the reasons why I love the Animal Jam chat, because it's so monitored and like, not crazy.
Yeah, and it takes a village, to say the least. So my next question for you guys is, when it comes to online games, how do you know that it's really benefiting them? Some games actually offer like report cards and emails to parents to let them know what their kids have been learning. Sometimes it's just what your kid is telling you at the dinner table. You're like, where did you learn that? What's kind of your barometer for success?
I do a lot. I lean more heavily on the qualitative data. I really do. Like the conversations, on the way to swim team about kids spewing out facts, or, just engaging with one another about the game and things that they've learned versus, I'll be honest, I have a hard time going to the computer and reading the report cards from games like that. I do. But other people who are more math-minded, Holly's a data girl, so I'm sure she really does well with looking at that stuff. I think it just depends on, the person, but I would definitely say for me it's the side conversations, that kind of thing.
It's really kind of funny because online and in that part of my life, I'm very data and statistics oriented, but when it comes to my children's education, it's almost completely opposite. They do go to school part-time, and I have never even looked at their report cards. And the reason for that is because I know exactly what they're learning. I see it every day in the way they play. I see it in the way they talk to each other and they interact, and how they're excited about things. Because I think I just have a different philosophy than a lot of people these days. I just think that we're so into scores and children's, proving that they've learned something at such a young age and forcing them into what other kids are supposed to have learned at that age, when I just feel like when it's more organic and when they are excited about something and that leads to another thing, and we Google it and we go on to Animal Jam and we do that section and we draw pictures and that is way more important to me than the fact that they know a fact, is that they're excited about it and that learning continues beyond whatever they were doing, and that's what that enthusiasm for learning is so important to me, that I couldn't care less if they learned anything as long as they were excited about it and trying.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's really kind of a fundamental thing that everybody should be striving towards, is really making sure that the kids are engaged in learning instead of just this kind of hear it and repeat it mentality. Is, are they really absorbing it? Does it matter to them? And that's a big thing for us, is how do we translate these core theories we're trying to teach them into something a little bit more tangible? One thing we kicked off this year is we've actually started adopting animals in the real world on behalf of our players. And so part of this is really to kind of say, look, you guys, we do have a membership option for kids who want access to more content, and with that money, we're able to tell them, you guys are supporting us, and in turn, these animals we've been teaching you about, we're supporting them as well. So this year we sponsored a golden eagle release. We've helped adopt a giraffe at a local zoo. Tomorrow we're announcing a hyena adoption that we did in Oakland. And it's really fun for the kids because they get to see this video content, the actual animals they're helping to protect. And then at the same time, they get to play as that animal in the game, and they get to download the fun activity sheets. So it's really creating this cohesive experience for them to be excited about learning without feeling like I have to memorize this for school. Mm-hmm. And so that's really important to us. Just for everybody who's been answering questions for us, we are going to be drawing a winner in about a minute, so definitely stay tuned for that. I would love to just hear more of your guys' thoughts about in the classroom.
Can you repeat that one more time? You kind of cut out.
Yeah, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts about using technology, whether it's apps or your computer, at home or in the classroom, and how that's working for you guys now, and what you'd really like to see change. What would benefit you more in the future?
Hmm. Wow, great question. I'm still a huge advocate for, balance. I think, you know, we're never going to be like only a digital community. So I really truly believe that kids need both skills. They need to be able to, look an adult in the eye and answer questions and, greet a person with, proper manners, that kind of thing. They should still be able to speak in front of a group, but they should always also know how to, I feel like they should be able to like whip out a PowerPoint presentation or like, edit a photo, write a blog post. And maybe we're a little bit biased, Holly, I don't know about the blog post thing, but I feel like they really need a balance. And so I would love to see, number one, more parents being more tech savvy and not being so afraid of the technology. I feel like the parents have to be a partner with that, and by partner I mean they need to like know what the kids are doing and be able to engage with them while the kids are playing. They also need to seriously know the ways of keeping their kids safe online. So yeah, that's a tough one, but I feel like it's a conversation that we need to have more at the bus stop. Like, are your kids using Instagram? Like, are you watching it? Like that kind of difficult conversation about, when my child goes for a play date, what kind of programs are you using on the computer? Are you going to be watching them? Is it free for all YouTube? Because if it is, like, I'm not cool with that. That kind of thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. How about you, Holly?
Yeah, I mean, it is, times are changing, and but like I'm with Amy, like I still read a book in a book. I'm never gonna give that up. I had a Kindle, and then I realized I do all my reading in the tub, which is really not helpful. So there's just things about like old school that will never go away. But what's amazing is that like the technology can emphasize and enrich and just give us so much more knowledge and ways to exploit our passions in ways that we couldn't before. And I think that kind of goes back to like my whole philosophy about learning is it's like we're really almost in a society now where kids can pursue their passions as professions someday. And so much of that will include technology. And so, like traditional test scores and traditional learning are not necessarily always setting them up for the jobs that they would want to hold and hold dear in the future. And so I just love the options, and and I completely agree with Amy. I don't know how many parents who have been freaked out when their kids get on Instagram or Facebook, and I'm just like, you need to be there. You need to be there a month or two before your kid gets there so you understand it. And then you will be able to guide that process. You can't just let them lead that because you have no idea where that will end up. So I mean, it's pushing us parents beyond our comfort zone, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's kind of a good thing. And it's also giving our children a way to teach us things that, they teach me something every day with technology, and I spend my life on the computer. So I love that about what's going on these days.
Yeah, it's so true. It's really about leading by example and not being afraid of the technology that's out there, even if it is totally foreign. It's how do you learn to embrace it so that you can teach them along the way. I really like that notion. I think that's really, really great. We do have the winner of our giveaway. It's Cuny Ty. Congratulations. So we'll get you your prize pack. Thank you so much. And I also want to thank you, Holly and Amy, for joining us tonight. This was really fabulous. It was so great to hear how you guys are using technology and gamification to really enhance your kids' learning experience. It's not just about playing online all the time, it's about learning too, and how do we find that blend? And it's tricky, it's really kind of muddy waters out there. A lot of people say they're educational and they're not, they just simply aren't. And so how as a parent do you really determine what is worthwhile for your kids? How engaged are you in that process? I think those are really important conversations for parents to be having. Do you guys have any questions for me, or?
I don't. I'm just really excited to see where this is going, Natalie. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, it's such a nice adjunct because we do a lot of research in some of these things on, on nationalgeographic.com and, a lot of the geography stuff like that. So it's just really nice to have another entry point to that same body of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, we really appreciate your guys' support, and also to our community to join us tonight. It's really fabulous that everybody was here for us. And Candy Ty, again, congratulations on winning. We're super psyched for you. If you guys have any questions for me, always feel free to reach out to us on Twitter. We're just at Animal Jam. We're always there. Or find me online. I'm not hard to find. I have a very unique name. So, but thank you everyone so much, and hopefully we'll be doing this again soon.
Hey, thank you so much.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.